because it was a show on political prisoners.
Uh-huh. Hi, I'm Roberta Weighill, and welcome to AIM-TV. Today we have Matef Harmachis, and he's with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've really been looking forward to this interview.
So have I.
So can you give us some history about your upbringing? And
Oh, certainly. I was born on the East Coast, but after one winter I moved my family to the West Coast, and I've been in California ever since. I did spend a couple of years in Washington, D.C. trying to get a job with the government when the Carter administration first came in, because in those days I was a dyed-in-the-world Democrat. But it was very interesting when I went there, everybody was telling me, why? Just get a job. And I couldn't understand it, but the longer I stayed in Washington, the more I realized it's really Demopublicans and Republicrats. They're all the same thing. They all eat the same place, live the same place, vacation the same place, work the same place. They conduct business the same way. It's really one entity. It's kind of a joke that they're really two different parties, which is what I try to teach my students. I do teach at Santa Barbara High School in the Social Studies department. Yes. And I try to help them understand there's a big difference between ideology and strategies and tactics. And clearly, the Demopublicans and the Republicans, or whatever they call themselves, they all have the same ideology. It's capitalism. Their strategies and tactics are different between the Democrats and Republicans. That's true. But that's not the baseline principles that show us how they act, how they make their decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that together taught me maybe I need to look at this from farther away, and that's really what got me seriously thinking about teaching social studies, helping people understand some of the things I saw in Washington. So far as my development, my father was always feeding me books about history. My mother is a sociologist. Locally, I helped start a couple of organizations supporting political prisoners. Nationally, I belong to another political prisoner organization. Internationally, of course, I belong to the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. And I always talk about my organizations because it's difficult to talk about my family. I can only go back a few generations because our development was interrupted when slavery slammed into the African continent.
yeah, it says a lot about who you really are, what the causes and agencies and organizations that you choose to support.
Absolutely.
So can you give me some information as to how you got involved with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party?
It's funny because I say my wife nagged me into the party, and she hates it when I say that. But I think it was about 1989. She said she was going to go, and my sister was going to hear Kwame Nkrumah, the former Stokely Carmichael of SNCC fame. He was the first organizer to come back from Africa talking about this All-African People's Revolutionary Party in 1972. And so in 1989, she said, I'm going to go hear KT. I'm like, really? Cool, let's go. So a few of us went, and he was incredible, of course. And from that point on, she just started saying, you know, you're an armchair revolutionary. You just like to talk. You need to join an organization and let your opinions and expressions be felt globally in this global organization. And I was like, yeah. At the time, I was living in Riverside, and so a year later, Kwame Nkrumah came back to the United States, and my wife said, he's going to be at UCR. You got to go. So I walked the 3 blocks to UC Riverside, and I saw him again. And it's a very interesting thing. To open, there was Ernie Longwalker from the 4 Directions, right up here at Atascadero. And I mean, he's a big, imposing, indigenous brother. And he calmly walked to the mic and he said, how many of you here think you're Americans? You know, it was like about 300 African students, and I didn't raise my hand, but about 1/3 of the people did. I mean, even then, I knew I was an African. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, really? Then I'm about to kill you! I'm about to kill everything American because they raped my mother! And he just went in this long litany starting from Columbus to today. And I said, whoever's down with this brother, I'm joining them right now. And that's how I joined the party. Ernie Longwalker scaring me to death and my wife nagging me pretty much. So that's what I like to tell people. But ideologically, I could see they were very clear. In fact, that's one reason we love AIM, because we have that same pan-ethnic identity. For us, we're Pan-Africans.
Right.
That's our goal.
Right.
We're out to liberate and unify Africa. You're Pan-Indigenous. You're out to liberate and unify all indigenous people. You don't set trip, as the young people say. We're not gangbangers. Right. You know, Lakota are never going to be free if Dene aren't free, if Mohawk aren't free, if Chumash aren't free. It can't happen. They came at us all one time. We've got to lock arms and fight back.
And it's a continuous fight. And just, you know, before this interview, just looking up some information regarding the All-African Revolutionary Party, there was a quote in one of the, I think it was like Wikipedia, and it says that that they felt like in an attempt to keep Africans divided, disorganized, confused, and live under stifling conditions so they can stop their progress towards total freedom. And it just kind of resonated with me as to, I see in doing these interviews with so many different organizations, and groups and cultures of people, I see that in every single one of them. So we have a common cause, and I know that there's history of us working together.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited, as I was talking about Ernie Long Walker and Warrior Woman. We've had a long relationship with them. We go up to their programs at Four Directions. They come down to the city, which they hate to do, and support us in our programming. We've worked with AIM locally, heavily in the Bay Area, and also the International Indian Treaty Council, Tony Gonzalez, and of course we go to the ceremonies at what's the island in San Francisco Bay?
The Alcatraz Island.
Thank you, Alcatraz, sorry. But these things have always happened. We firmly believe wherever we go, we need to ask permission to do our program. So if we're in Ireland, we have to ask the Irish. If we're in Palestine, we've got to ask the Palestinians. Wherever we are. And so we're here in California, so we ask the local elders, you know, we want to celebrate African culture. In 1995, when I first moved here, I was asking my wife, where are the brothers at? She said, well, they're on campus. So I'm in my 40s, but I went and joined the BSU. And they were so sweet. You know, I'm twice their age, but they let me come on. And I think I moved here in January, and they were already planning to have what they called Black Cultural Week. And I was like, what's that? And they said, I said, well, have you gotten permission to do this? They said, oh, yeah, administration this and dean that. I said, no. Have you asked the local Chumash elders? Because when I moved here, I'd already, you know, found out who was supposed to be running things here. And they said, no. How do we do that? I said, well, do you have an AIM on campus? No. I said, do you have an ASA? Said, yeah, we know those guys. Ask ASA to go to the local elders and see if it's okay if you have Black Cultural Week. They did it. 3 weeks later, ASA comes to report. I wish you could have seen them. I now understand what they say. Moses' face was shining when he came back from Mount Oreb, with, you know, communing with the Almighty. These guys had this far-off stare on their faces like Che Guevara, just looking off into space. They said, we went to see the elders. We're like, yeah, what happened? They said, so we told them what you wanted. And we're like, yeah. They said, they all started crying. And we're like, oh no, what do we do? They said, when they stopped crying, they said, no non-Indian has ever asked Chumash people in our whole history for permission to do anything. So they told ASA, you go back and tell those Africans they can celebrate African culture anytime, anywhere on Chumash land. And I mean, there was not a dry eye in that room. I'm getting a little teary now, remembering, because we realized we'd done the right thing. Yeah. We were good guests. This is not our home. We're not even in the right house. We didn't come here voluntarily, so far as that's concerned. So it's important that we act proper to our proper hosts. And that's why the party makes sure that we include in all our openings for all our programs some Indigenous person to say, yes, this is a good thing, it's okay that you're here.
Yeah, well, thank you. And, you know, just being, you know, as a Native person, when we do have visitors to our